Yes, it's that time again for Malcontented Minutes. And this is also another time here that I want to say spam those hearts. Let those mods and admins know that you love us. And also let the Facebook algorithm know that you love us. If you're not feeling very heart, you can just go ahead and give us a like if you want. If you're watching us on Twitter or Periscope, you can do hearts. If you're watching us on YouTube or on Twitch, you just do like a line of hearts. Or I love you, mods. Or I love you, Jen, not in a weird, creepy way. Or I love you, Mal, and not in a weird, creepy way. We would really appreciate that. So, what is Malcontented Minutes? We have 20 minutes. By the way, Jennifer and I nailed 20 minutes the last show. We nailed it almost to the second. 10 stories, 2 minutes each, 20 minutes. Mods are going to go and put a link up to the poll. I see that we have one link up to the poll with a Facebook ID tracking tag attached to it. And I think that the Twitch folks saw that. I don't know if everybody else is. I love you, Mal, in the creepiest of ways is a comment, Jennifer. Jennifer, we're going to have you start off.
Okay. Sorry,
all right, are
like...
we ready to rock and roll? Oh, wait a minute. The poll. What? The poll. You get to control the news. There's a poll, and I started talking about the poll. And yes, there's the link, and the other mods and admins will share it on the other channels. You can go to the poll, malcontentment.com, whack poll, and you can vote for the story that you want Jennifer and I to talk about more at the end of the evening. Full stop. I wouldn't go and vote right now. I would wait until you hear all 10 stories. All right, Jennifer, are we ready?
Yes, we are ready.
All right, here we go. Clock is running.
Okay, so today, anti-government activist and entitled white man Ammon Bundy was arrested today after he refused to wear a mask in court and missed his own trial. I'm sure a lot of you remember Ammon Bundy. He's Cliven Bundy's son. They are rather anti-government, occupied federal land in resistance to, escalating or the inability to graze cattle, something along those lines. Some entitled Western white man BS. So Bundy, who is now 41, should be familiar with mask mandate as the Idaho Supreme Court implemented this mandate over a year ago. And after his refusal to put on a mask, Bundy was not granted admission inside the Ada County Courthouse, prompting Magistrate Judge David Manweil to issue a warrant for Bundy's arrest. So as of 2:30 p.m. Mountain Time, Bundy was still being held in lieu of $10,000 bail. If Bundy does make bail, conditions could include that he follow courthouse rules, including following the mask mandate.
So I actually have a video clip, so I'm going to play the video clip, and that's how I'm going to use some of my 60 seconds.
Ammon Bundy in the news once again after being arrested for failure to appear in court to face a trespassing and resisting arrest charge. He and a group gathered outside the courthouse this morning. At least one person was sent to the hospital after some sort of altercation with law enforcement, and Bundy was booked back into the Ada County Jail. Ada County Sheriff's Office says he defied an Idaho Supreme Court order by refusing to wear masks in the Ada County Courthouse. Charges stem from an incident during the special session in the Idaho legislature back in August. You'll recall he was wheeled out of the Capitol after refusing to leave the State House.
Oh my goodness, Jennifer. So all I'm going to say is this. I would have a lot to talk about if this is the story we unpack. It is really, really hard under U.S. law, apparently, to charge somebody with domestic terrorism or even implicit domestic terrorism. And Ammon Bundy is a walking example of how difficult that is to do. And that's what I'll say to unpack that out. And we're going to go ahead and move on to story number 2. Story number 2. Oh, Tucker Carlson. Tucker. You have pissed off basically the entire U.S. military.
So we've got new hairstyles and maternity flight suits. Pregnant women are going to fight our wars. It's a mockery of the U.S. military.
Carlson terminating his tirade with an anti-trans dig.
While China's military becomes more masculine as it's assembled the world's largest navy, our military needs to become, as Joe Biden says, more feminine, whatever feminine means anymore, since men and women no longer exist.
The moment met with outrage across the military.
Drama TV.
Including from Pentagon spokesperson John Kirby.
What we absolutely won't do is take personnel advice from a talk show host or the Chinese military.
Military women tweeting photos of themselves pregnant in uniform.
So, Jennifer, it actually gets worse because guess who joined this party? Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz today very upset. He wants an investigation into military and Pentagon officials that have spoken out against Tucker Carlson and his transphobic and sexist rant against our women and trans military members. You got 50 seconds.
Tucker Carlson is a malignant dolt. He's a woman hater. He is sexist. He is transphobic. He is absolutely disgusting. He probably, I hate to say this, but he probably never gets laid. And if he does, I feel sorry for whoever he's doing it with. But also, I think it's absolutely disgusting. It just goes back to this really ingrained sexist belief that women are good enough to produce children for the military, but not good enough to participate in it.
Ooh, mic drop. Boom. You are feisty tonight, Jennifer. You ready for story number 4?
Let's do it.
All right. Clock is running.
All right, so Representative Deb Haaland of the Laguna Pueblo in New Mexico is now confirmed as the first Native American Secretary of the Interior, in spite of Republican objections that Haaland, an actual living, breathing Native American, is, quote, too radical to oversee a department that houses the BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs. The vote was 51-40, and this is a monumental and long overdue moment in history. After the confirmation, member of the Pueblo Nation's Define Poston declared, quote, Indian country has shouted from the valleys, from the mountaintops, that it's time. It's overdue, end quote. In addition to being an Indigenous woman, Haaland is also a single mother and received public assistance prior to completing her law degree. Haaland has referred to climate change as the challenge of our lifetime, which prompted Republicans like Steve Daines of Montana and others entangled with the fossil fuel industry to rail against her nomination, using the old quote, it'll take away our jobs, end quote, should Haaland do away with things like fracking and further construction of oil pipelines. Claims about mass job loss, as Daines and others have claimed, have already been debunked on several occasions. So congratulations to the new Secretary of the Interior and member of the Pueblo Nation, Deb Haaland.
I love this so much. I love this story so much. Now, here is the icky part about this story as I unpack it out, which is she was confirmed 50-41. That means 9 Republican senators punted on the vote once she got the 50 because they weren't brave enough to put their no vote on paper and instead just did the abstain. Once they got to the 50 and a 50-50 tie, if that was the case, they would have brought over Vice President Kamala Harris, and she would have done the tie-breaking vote on this. So I am thrilled. It's taken 171 years, but my goodness, a person who is Native American is in charge of the native homeland soil. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. The real, I said story number 4 because normally Jennifer is, but anyway, this is the story number 4. We're going to go ahead and start with that. And story number 4 takes us to a horrible story out of the state of Louisiana. We have a video clip for this.
Louisiana State Police have filed criminal charges against 4 of their own. Troopers Dakota DeMoss, George Harper, Randall Dickerson, and Jacob Brown each face charges of simple battery and malfeasance in office.
What hasn't been disclosed is that Trooper Brown's father was the chief of staff under the prior administration.
According to state police, that's when Troopers DeMoss, Harper, and Brown deactivated their body cameras and used excessive and unjustifiable force. Brown again falsified the use of force report and arrest report and failed to indicate and provide video evidence.
You know, and every time I got ready to speak, he would hit me with the flashlight.
This story actually extends, Jennifer, to 6 state troopers. 1 state trooper under investigation has killed himself, and 2 state troopers have been involved in multiple incidents. You get 45 seconds. Another example of systemic racism.
You essentially took the words right out of my mouth. Systemic racism. The system was built to keep white men of a particular status in positions of power and basically devalue and disenfranchise anybody who did not fit within, the phenotypical characteristics of whiteness, or who could not claim that status. And we see this repeatedly over and over again, history repeating itself. We talk about Republicans especially want to claim that they're the party of Lincoln and that they abolished slavery. Slavery was never fucking abolished. Excuse my language. You had the Black Codes, you had, convict leasing programs, you had Jim Crow, you have, people in conditions of poverty and oppressed, and, excessive use of force, not only by the police, but in the judicial system. So you have all of these things, and this is just another example of this that continues to repeat itself throughout history because the system needs to be dismantled.
Boom. Again. Jennifer, are you ready for story 5?
Let's do it. All right. So the Kaiser Family Foundation released an analysis last week that reveals those who identify as LGBTQIA have endured worse hardships during the pandemic, ranging from unemployment to worsening mental health. As a result, people identifying as LGBTQIA+ were more likely to view getting vaccinated for COVID as a community responsibility. Although data is limited in comparison to other groups, 56% reported either losing their jobs or knowing someone who had, while 49% experienced a significant decline in positive mental health. Both LGBTQIA and non-LGBTQIA identifying people felt similarly about getting the vaccine, but 75% of LGBTQIA identifying people saw it as a social responsibility. The study suggests that part of the reason may be related to socioeconomic status, age, and most identify as Democrat or another political affiliation, aka not conservative.
Hallelujah! Holy shit!
Oh my goodness gracious. COVID has disproportionately impacted every minority structure and population in this country. And it has done that in part because they cannot build as much generational wealth. And there is this myth, even to say we come with Asians, right? Well, Asians are more wealthy than Americans. And when people say Asians, they are lumping all of these people right into one big group. But when you talk about, say, the Hmong people or Cambodians or Bangladesh, they are not, right? It is the stereotyping of, say, people of South Korean or Japanese descent, and to some extent Chinese descent. Chinese is kind of across the spectrum. And I know I'm off the LGBTQIA angle. This was very heartbreaking for me to hear that there was such a disproportionate impact to this community also.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, story number 6. And story number 6 is also not good news in the LGBTIA community. Sorry, Malcontent. The Vatican declared Monday that the Catholic Church won't bless same-sex unions since God cannot bless sin. The declaration distinguished between the Church's welcoming and blessing of gay people, which it upheld, but not their unions. It argued that such unions are not part of God's plan and that any sacramental recognition of them could be confused with marriage. Jesus Christ. The note immediately pleased conservatives, disheartened advocates for LGBT Catholics, and threw a wrench in the debate with the German church, which has been at the forefront of opening discussion on hot-button issues, such as the church's teaching on homosexuality. The Vatican holds that gay people must be treated with dignity and respect, but that gay sex is intrinsically disordered, quote unquote. Catholic teaching says that marriage is a lifelong union between a man and woman and part of God's plan and is intended for the sake of creating new life. Since gay unions aren't intended to be part of that plan, they cannot be blessed by the church.
Oh.
Gross. Jennifer, you got 45 seconds.
Why the papacy still has so much power, I don't know. Let's ask the current pope about Pope Julius, who commanded the papal army during the Renaissance period, and how many boyfriends Pope Julius had. Let's talk about when the Catholic Church basically forbid, their priests to look at women, and multiple during the High Middle Ages took on male lovers. Let's talk about that, Catholic Church. Let's talk about your issue with little boys and priests. Let's talk about that, Catholic Church. And once we address all of these issues, then maybe we'll consider your opinion on gay marriage.
The one thing in this story, Jennifer, I'm going to go a couple of seconds over this one that made me kind of giggle when I read it. There was one thing is, and I always say when I talk about history, I know with you, I feel like I really have to stay in my lane. I was really amused that the Germans are once again the rabble-rousers within the Catholic Church, right? The Declaration of Martin Luther in the 1500s, which created the Lutheran Church, and the Germans within the Catholic community are creating chaos for the Catholic Church again, and I'm very amused by that.
Yes.
All right, Jennifer, you got story number 7.
Oh, for you entertainment folks out there, J-Lo and A-Rod are on the rocks. And I don't know if you remember, about a month ago, I talked to this on Malcontented Minutes about how A-Rod had been caught texting a very young, very single, very blonde reality TV star. So A-Rod, there are rumors the two have ended their 3-year engagement. However, both J-Lo and A-Rod are doing major damage control right now, seeking to quash any rumblings that their union is coming to an end. It has been reported by several outlets that A-Rod has a long history of inappropriately texting other women while in relationships. Go figure. Although there's no evidence he's acted beyond texting, people close to the couple suggest that J-Lo has reached her limit with his bullshit, but the couple have personal and business entanglements that will take some time to undo. So I guess A-Rod is about to find out if J-Lo's love really won't cost a thing, but I'm guessing he's going to find out that it will.
I have opinions on this, believe it or not. A lot of it's really inappropriate. So I'm going to keep the appropriate thoughts out loud. And my appropriate thoughts on this is, as a Red Sox fan, as somebody that moved to, and as a big baseball fan, as somebody that moved here to Seattle when A-Rod left Seattle after the 2001 season and broke everybody's heart here, as the guy who basically single-handedly bankrupted the Texas Rangers, and that was on George W. Bush's watch, by the way, and then went to the Yankees and was just a douche nozzle in New York, and that's probably being insulting to douche nozzles. He probably was worse than that. He had a terrible reputation in New York. As a womanizer, as just an a-hole, as a guy who doesn't like pay his bills. He was constantly in trouble with management. And, you know, a lot of, I say this very carefully. This is the part where I'm like, I want to be careful. A lot of people in acting and actresses have a lot of problems with personal relationships. There are very few people in those vocations that they marry somebody and they're married for the rest of their life. And you hear that they're like, I cannot remember Henry Fonda's wife. Oh my God, I could see. She was African Queen.
I can't remember.
Somebody in the comments. I'm totally rat-holing on this.
No.
She was the actress in The African Queen, Henry Fonda's wife. Right? They had this beautiful lifelong life, but those are the exceptions. So at the end of the day, I'm not shocked that this relationship is a train wreck. I guess is what it comes down to.
Yep. Me either.
Did we had to throw somebody out in the comments over the A-Rod story?
Wow.
Someone got fired up over A-Rod.
Maybe it was my portrayal of him as a womanizer.
Oh, maybe. All right, here we go.
Maybe.
We're going to story number 8. We will start the timer. Story number 8 is just a feel-good story. I'm just going to hit the button.
So big news at the Houston Zoo. Once again, happy to announce another successful elephant birth. Yesterday morning, 11:30 in the morning, Tupelo gave birth to a 285-pound little girl, or not so little girl, Tupelo's first baby. So we're terribly excited that everything went well. She went into labor around 12:30 a.m. in the morning. 11 hours later, baby hit the ground, doing great. Mom's doing great. Baby's nursing. Everyone looks great. We couldn't be happier. Just waiting for them to have a few more milestones, and then we're going to put them on exhibit and introduce them to everybody else.
Jennifer, I know you have mixed feelings on zoos, but oh my God, that elephant was just so cute. And it also, for me, just such a sharp contrast in the change in weather in less than a month in Seattle. That was another thing that jumped out of that story. You get a full minute.
I actually love elephants, and I think, they're going through so much destruction because of like the palm harvest, that there's sanctuaries for baby elephants, because elephants, if they are not in the company of other elephants, can actually die of loneliness. So Yashar Ali, he's a journalist. He does like all this promotion stuff with baby elephants, and there's sanctuaries. There's people that actually go and sleep with these baby elephants, cover them with blankets. They keep them company until they can be released with, other elephants, because it's very traumatic for them. A lot of times their mothers are killed and they're orphaned. They found some being, shot at and other things. And so I think it's always a wonderful thing to see elephants anywhere, just because they're having such a rough time alongside gorillas because of the palm oil industry. So yeah.
All right, Jennifer, we're going to go ahead and move on to story number 9.
Yes. And that is me. So I know we have some clip for this, so I'm just going to briefly preface it. This is a formerly unhomed man in San Diego, Mark Gervais. He and his friend David Hendon, were actually recognized by the community for going along while they were unhomed and actually cleaning up garbage off of the beaches. And so they received $30,000 in community donations. But what happens next is a super feel-good story, and I'm just going to let you roll the video.
So big news at the Houston Zoo once again.
Out in my county blues, Daytona Beach.
Jennifer, I have bad news.
You don't have it.
We don't have it.
That's all right. I can talk about it. So again, Mark Gervais, 63 of San Diego, is the proud owner of a new smile after a local dentist donated $8,000 in dental work to the formerly unhomed man, who alongside his friend Dave Hendon regularly picked up garbage left behind on local beaches. After being recognized for their community cleanup efforts, the community donated nearly $30,000 to the two men, but it didn't stop there. Through a program called Elevated Smiles, San Diego dentist Dr. Tina Saw found out about Mark and wanted to do something beneficial for him and his smile. Plagued by teeth problems and unable to afford dental care, Mark had regular dental pain and was down to 3 teeth. Dr. Saw pulled those 3 teeth and gave him a brand new smile. Mark is now on his way to fulfilling his dream of enjoying a nice, juicy steak with his brand new teeth.
This was just an amazing story. I'm incredibly bummed that the clip will not load up, because it gave me the serious feels.
Yes.
Like I was like, oh, after I watched this video clip. Another thing that happened for him, Jennifer, is a local dealer in San completely restored his minivan that he is living in, detailed it, mechanical, everything, so that he would have a reliable place, a reliable vehicle to get around, and a comfortable place. They did like some upgrades and stuff for him to stay in. It is just an amazing story. He is a well-liked individual in the community. David, we know firsthand there's people in the unhomed community that do great stuff like this.
Never mind. I'm good.
What happened?
Nothing. Somebody was calling, but it stopped, so I'm good.
Okay.
Sorry.
And with that, we're going to go to story number 10. And I've already kind of tipped our hands on what story number 10 is.
Out in my county blues, Daytona Beach didn't want nothing to do with you.
Robert Burke, a.k.a. Naked Cowboy, has already made a song about his latest trip to Daytona Beach that ended like this.
Get on the sidewalk.
Patty.
You need to be quiet. Move. Get your over here. Do not resist.
You are fighting me.
The strings of his famous guitar sticking out every which way after Daytona Beach officers arrested him for panhandling and also charged him for resisting arrest without violence.
People try to give me money, but I'm not asking.
No, we've seen them giving you money.
I know they do.
You can't.
All right, so a couple of things here. Number one, police broke his guitar. They slapped that resisting arrest charge on him, Jennifer, and the camera doesn't play that out, right? I'll defend the devil when the devil is deserving of getting that. Now, full stop. Let's draw the line here. Part of what was not covered in that Orlando story is that he dropped homophobic and racial slurs at the police officers that were arresting him. And he was just a general all-around dirtbag through the whole process. And lots of people who have dealt with him in New York City as tourists, including the comments, which are blowing up on people who've dealt with him in New York, say he's a dirtbag. You get like 30 seconds.
So I wonder, I mean, like, for one thing, he's got a little bit of a privilege because he's a man doing this in public. Could you imagine if that was a woman out there doing that? I mean, like, even take away the terrible attributes that he has with the hurling the homophobic and racial slurs. Could you imagine a naked woman out there with a guitar, how quickly that would get quashed? Or a naked BIPOC person of color out there trying to do the same damn shit? That's
How about a naked trans person?
Get that far. Yeah, huh?
A naked trans person.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Whatever. Yeah. That's all I got.
He is planning to sue, by the way, Daytona Beach over his treatment.
Oh, wah. Cry me a fucking river. Excuse my language.
So, I get to hit the button.
Nope, sorry. It's been a week.
It's written.
I think we went the whole week last week without hitting the button. I love that button.
I've had
All
a
right,
button.
this is your chance to vote, Malcontents. Mods admins, go ahead and drop the link to the poll over into the comments section. You get to pick the story that you want Jennifer and I to unpack, and we will let you know when votes are closing out. That will be right before the Women History section of the show, or should I say Women's Month. Well, Women's History, Women's Month. It's Women History. Never mind. We're going to go ahead and do a little brief pause for the cause. I'm going to catch my breath, and we're going to keep rolling. Hi, Malcontents. I'm David, the Malcontent, and I'd like to talk to you for a moment about supporting independent media. When you support us, you help us bring the before, during, and after. You help us defend the First Amendment. You help us amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices, and you help us hold leaderships at a local, state, and federal level accountable. None of this would be possible without support by viewers just like you. When you become a patron for as little as $5 a month, you help buy technology, safety equipment, and help cover travel expenses so that we can continue to bring you news that you trust. If you can't become a patron, you can do a one-time donation on Venmo, and your dollars will go to the exact same causes. With your continued support, we can continue to amplify BIPOC and LGBTQIA voices while showing the truth on what is happening in the world around us. Once again, thank you. And yes, thank you very much for supporting us. Those hearts are for you, Malcontent, and all of the patrons that make all of the work that we do possible and allow us to continue to do what we do here and provide you great content.